I also have permanent scarring from using the pore strips because, again, it's the same thing. It really irritates the skin. Okay, I got my matcha here. Do you see how green this is? Do you see how green she is? I've been on Matcha Talk and making my own matcha because who's going to pay $9 seriously for a matcha? So I am going to talk about why your acne scars are getting worse when you try to fix them. I thought this was really important because as somebody who has suffered with the deepest ice pick of acne scars, and I have been creating Banish, I'm the founder of Banish. I have been creating an at-home microneedling kit since 2012 to help people with their acne scars because I started my YouTube channel back in 2009 documenting my acne journey and my acne story and all that. So I feel like I know a lot and I've tried a lot of things for my acne scars, and there's so much conversation from people, especially on Reddit and the online communities, as why their acne scars are getting worse. And there's a lot of myths and misinformation from the aesthetics and beauty industry because there's a lot of money involved in fixing acne scars. So I am going to share with you, number one, how acne scars form, then the biggest mistakes that people make when treating their acne scars, how you can actually heal and treat acne scarring, a safe, sustainable way to treat acne scars, who should not treat acne scars, and lastly, talking about confidence mindset because that is also so important. So the title of this video is why your acne scars are getting worse when you're trying to fix them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my background and things I've tried and what has worked for me. I have had cystic acne since I was 9 years old. I was the first in my class to get acne, and I was constantly made fun of and teased and bullied for it. Now, what is cystic acne? Now, cystic acne is the type of acne that causes scarring, okay? So the cystic acne most likely is caused from hormonal, especially for women, from hormonal acne. And hormonal acne usually occurs along the temples and the jawline and the cheek areas, right? Very rarely do you see cystic acne along the forehead area, or sorry, acne scars along the forehead area. Most people have acne scars around the cheek jaw area, right? That is where it comes from. Now, cystic acne is very, very deep in the skin. And what happens is that when the bacteria and oil production and that hair follicle gets clogged up, it creates a lot of inflammation within the layers of skin, right? And it kind of like, you can think of your skin as different like basket weave patterns, right? But when you have that cystic acne, it kind of breaks up that collagen and then it gets inflamed. And then when it pops and it heals, the collagen isn't healed in the same way that the previous collagen matrix was before. So there's a lot of unevenness, and that's why you see texture on the skin. If you ask anybody, doctor, dermatologist, plastic surgeon, acne scars is one of, if not the hardest skin condition to treat because the injury is so deep into the skin, right? Other forms of, things on the skin happen at a very surface level, so it's easier to treat. But scarring, especially acne scarring, comes from the actual pore and hair follicle very deep into the skin, which is why it's very difficult to treat. And if you have ice pick scars, those are by far some of the hardest scars to treat. So for me, every single pimple left a scar. Every single acne I've ever had in my life has left a scar. And I do want to say there is a huge, huge genetic component to scarring. I feel like people think that getting acne scars is their fault, and it's not your fault. A lot of times people think that I have acne scars because it picked my skin or because I didn't take care of my skin, and that was not the case. Like, I was on YouTube, you guys, like talking about my acne and trying to fix my skin. It is simply because my skin scars towards everything. And I don't know if you can see here, I have a scar right here. My little baby scratched me and it's left a permanent scar. Like, this is how easily my skin scars. So in terms of treating acne scars, right, we are flooded with a ton of different information: lasers, resurfacing, microneedling, really intense chemical peels like Jessner's, TCA cross peel, all of that. And the biggest mistake that people make in treating their acne scars is they are thinking that the more intensity equals the better output. That is by far the biggest myth and the biggest lie the aesthetics industry pushes towards you, okay? People think more intensity, the better the treatment. I think this started with Kim Kardashian's vampire facial. A lot of people, thought, okay, well, Kim Kardashian, she put the blood on her face, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's the result I need. And a lot of these medical spas were able to charge $600-700 a treatment to do that kind of effect. So people thought that's what they needed, right? People think that the more intense you go, the better the results. And as a byproduct, a lot of these places can charge a lot more money because people want intensity. But the biggest myth I want you guys to know, as somebody who's been in this industry for over 13 years, is that if you are prone to acne scars, you're probably prone to scarring of general sorts. So you have to be very careful about what you use on your skin to prevent further scarring. So my biggest mistake personally was I tried the aggressive treatments. This was before I started Banish, and it actually left more scarring into my skin. So let's talk about it. Okay, here are some treatments I have had that have caused permanent scarring on my skin. 1, extractions. 2, the pore strips. 3, professional microneedling. 4, lasers, and 5, fillers for acne scars. Okay, those are probably the worst treatments I've had on my skin that has caused even more damage and even more scarring than what it was supposed to treat. So let's talk about extractions and those pore strips. Okay, I thought when during my acne and acne scarring journey that extractions were going to clear my pores. And what they do with extractions is they really press into the skin, and they are like, they go in. Okay, I don't know if you guys have had a facial or extractions before, but they press into the skin, and it was so painful, those extractions. She did get all of the like clogged pores out, but what happened with those extractions, because my skin is so prone to scarring, it left permanent scars around my nose from the extraction. So right here, you guys can see I have permanent scarring. Okay, I have permanent scarring from that. I also have permanent scarring from using the pore strips because again, it's the same thing. It really like irritates the skin, and it makes the pore like larger when you pull the actual pores out. Okay, so if you're someone like me and you have scarring, I would stay away from any kind of mechanical extraction of pores, right? Instead, the best thing you can do for that is you can use microneedling. use Definitely use a thin needle. Definitely use a very, very thin gold-plated titanium needle for microneedling. Stamp into the skin. Don't roll, don't motorize, don't vibrate. And also using a chemical exfoliant would also be great for pores, but no manual extraction of the pores. Okay, that's the number one thing. Number two thing, lasers. I've done lasers before, and you know what? It was so long ago. I don't even remember the kind of laser I got, but I just felt like my face looked like a burn victim at the end, and I developed a lot of uneven skin tone after using the laser. So I stopped doing lasers since then. I know there are different forms of lasers. I know you need to go to a certain skin specialist, but for me, the laser treatment was very, very expensive, and it did not do anything to my skin. If you're going to do lasers, I highly, highly recommend for you to go seek multiple opinions. Okay, I'm not saying that going to do lasers on your skin is going to ruin your skin or cause more acne scarring. For me, it did because I didn't know what I was doing. This was before I started Banish. This was before I, delved into this world of aesthetics and all that. I would really recommend before you buy that package deal of lasers, before you see that coupon site for laser treatments, go to multiple places and ask them the questions, interview them and take your time to do your due diligence and research. And also make sure you talk to the person who's actually doing the treatment about the settings, about the risks, all of that. Because the last thing I would want for you guys to do is not only waste thousands of dollars on lasers that don't work, but ruin your skin, because I did not see any improvement. In fact, I felt like my skin got worse after using lasers. Okay. Next thing is fillers for acne scarring. And fillers for acne scarring, I think it's one of my biggest regrets. And it was the same person I went to get my laser done. I don't even remember her name, but it was the same person. So what they do is they inject like little pieces of filler, really, really tiny amounts, to the acne scars. So I don't know if you can see with this light here, I do have a lot of acne scars. They're very, very deep, but they're very, very small. Like they're very small in terms of radius, but they're very deep in the skin, right? So they're typical ice pick scarring. So the doctor injected a tiny bit of filler into the acne scar site, and for the first week, it looked like my skin had a lot of freckles instead of acne scars, because you can see that if you raise up the indentations of the skin, all I was left with was like little dots of hyperpigmentation. Yeah, I was left with that. It was okay, but what happened after like a month was all the filler started to migrate. Okay. And this is why I've not gotten injectables since then. It was my last time because that stuff migrates a lot. I mean, I don't know if like other people it migrates for them, but for me, like everything migrates. So it all migrates, and you can see this little indentation, and I'm so embarrassed. But this is where like all the filler from the acne scars here all migrated. And I guess because I have a lot of movement here, it all migrated here. It's created this like permanent dent thing. I don't know. For example, this is your acne scar, right? Okay. So then they apply filler, right? So this volume goes up. But then what happens is that this filler moved over to this side. So the acne scar, then the divot looked like that a little bit. So the scarring was even more pronounced because the filler migrated up here. Okay. So yeah, I just think filler for acne scars is like the worst. Don't ever do it unless your acne scar is really wide. So that way, if the filler does migrate, it can still be in that pit. Because of that, I've never gotten filler or Botox because I'm just traumatized. That is one thing I do not recommend for sure. Okay, worst thing I did. And then the last thing that caused scarring when I was trying to treat was professional microneedling. Okay, I got professional microneedling done a handful of times. And the thing about using the Dr. Pen motorized device is that the needles are a stainless steel, and the stainless steel needles are very thick needles compared to the Banisher 3.0, right? The gauge of the needles are very, very thick. So when the professional applies numbing cream on you, you can't feel anything, right? And when they're using a motorized device, and she was pressing so hard, it tore my skin. And again, somebody who has acne scarring is probably more likely to scar over very minor things, right? So all of those little like the big gauge needles with the motorized device, and I numbing cream, so I couldn't tell how hard she was pressing, left permanent scars on my face. And you can see this because you can see these little holes, these little divots right here. I never had acne here. I was trying to treat my nasolabial fold, so I think she went really, really deep, and I'm left with permanent scarring from there. So don't do what I did, okay? If you're going to microneedle, make sure you're using a stamper device. Make sure it's not motorized. Make sure you're not using numbing cream. I really don't think it's necessary. And make sure you're using the finest needles out there. Okay, I always say titanium needles, they're much finer, that are gold plated with a very, very accented point. It's going to pierce the skin and not cause the scarring. The titanium needles are more of like a cylindrical shape, so they're really like the gauge of the needles is much thicker. So you got to be careful with that. Okay, so those are the things I've tried for my acne scarring that made my scarring way worse and has left more scarring on my skin. And I'm telling you this because I don't want you guys to make the same mistake. So people also think, again, more intensity is better, and people will overdo it because they will do a lot of strong chemical peels back to back without allowing the skin to heal. They're using way too many actives. They're doing too much at once. And the thing about your skin, it's your largest organ, right? It's your largest organ, and it needs time to recover. It needs time to heal, right? It's just like athletes who overtrain themselves, develop an injury, and they are completely out for the rest of the season. Your skin definitely needs time to go through the phases of skin proliferation and recovery. All of these treatments for acne scars, right, is creating a controlled minor injury in the skin. You want to create an injury that is so tiny that there is no risk of scarring. And in the article by Libel and Cloth, Skin Proliferation by Microneedles, they say the radius of the injury should be no larger than a 0.5 to 0.6 micrometer, okay? Just be careful when you're doing any kind of collagen remodeling. You want to make sure that opening, the aperture, is not going to be too large for your skin to create further scarring. And when you do get any kind of professional treatments done, ask them. Ask the professional, is this going to cause further scarring, or how can we prevent further scarring when the skin reheals, okay, itself? I think that's very, very important for you guys to ask if you're getting professional treatments. But also, when you are doing like microneedling, whether you're doing it professionally or at home or any of these treatments, the collagen takes time to rebuild, okay? So you need to wait and let your skin heal and recover for it to rebuild. And this is why I say, for a deeper acne scar treatment, like if you're using the 1mm Banisher head, to wait at least once every 2 weeks, if not once every month, for your skin to rebuild and reheal that collagen. Definitely do not use a 1mm stamper every single day. You're defeating the purpose of that, right? Your skin needs time to rebuild and to heal. I would say the second biggest mistake is people thinking that one treatment is enough for them to see results and for them to sustain the results. So a lot of people will think, again, I need to do this one aggressive treatment and then all my acne scars will go away and I don't need to do anything else for the rest of my life. But you have to be consistent, and consistency at a more mild treatment is far better than a big aggressive treatment once in a while, right? It's the same thing with anything you do in life, like these tiny little habits, or even, going to the gym and staying in shape, right? It's all about consistency. It's not about like one big workout once every other month, right? It's about, working out a few times a week for 10 years, right? So for your skincare and for treating acne scars, you really need to be consistent. And what I mean by that is doing something that is targeting your acne scars either once every other week or once a month, but doing that for a decade and beyond. That's what I mean by the consistency of treating the acne scars, because your skin, again, it's a living, breathing organism. It's the largest organ in your body. It's constantly changing, right? It's constantly changing, especially as we get older. We produce less collagen. And when we produce less collagen, any kind of like irregularities in the skin collagen matrix, it's going to be more noticeable, right, with the loss of collagen. So the second biggest myth in treating acne scars is thinking that you don't need to be consistent with it and that you do it one time and you're done. But milder procedures that consistently is far better than big treatments done once in a while sporadically. So consistency beats intensity every single time. Can you repeat this with me? Consistency beats intensity every single time. So this is why for Banish, we have a subscription option, because I want you guys to be consistent. We also sell the heads in packs because I want you to be consistent with it. Okay. Next biggest mistake I would see is people putting way too much aggressive treatments on top of microneedling, on top of laser treatments, on top of something intense. Let your skin heal. Be patient with it. Let it heal. Don't use aggressive, acids or treatments or all of that. Like, you really have to let your skin heal. and trust the process. And I think that's the hardest thing for people. And for me too, is to trust the process and focus on progression, but not perfection. Because I think what people do is they do this treatment, they spend so much money on it, and they don't see the results that they like. And so they go back to the place where they got it done. And that person, is saying, oh, well, you need this and you need this and you need this. So they just do more and more and more, and it's completely ruining their skin, right? I think something it's very important to note that you have to expect realistic outcomes and realistic results. And that's not going to happen just from one big intense treatment, right? And to not be scared and not be worried if that big intense treatment doesn't actually solve your skin issues, skin texture, skin irregularity issues. So I think a lot of people go into these treatments expecting perfection, and when they don't get that perfect result they want, they get disappointed and they do worse things to their skin. At least that was me. Like, I've been there. Like, when I had really bad cystic acne, I put more harsh medicines, I took more medications, I did more stuff, and it just made it worse. And it was that like nasty cycle that the more I did to my skin, the worse it became. And I feel like that is very, very accurate with a lot of the beauty and the skincare industry. They're constantly trying to sell you more and more and more and more and more stuff, right? Because more products make more money. Another big important thing, if you do want to help the acne scars and make sure that the healing is done right, is number one, to follow a very simplified skincare routine that will nourish the skin, hydrate the skin, and provide benefits to your skin. Okay, so number one is definitely use a gentle cleanser. That's very, very important. The Banish Ultimate Cleanser is really great because of the ingredients. You can look it up, but you don't have to use that. You can just use whatever gentle cleanser. Make sure it doesn't have any microbeads or no physical exfoliants. No physical exfoliants, especially those with acne scars, okay? Do not use a physical exfoliant and create micro tears, create even more scarring. And something that is not too foamy, just very, very gentle cleanser, okay? Make sure you're doing that. And then number two, make sure you're putting vitamin C every single day underneath your sunscreen. I like using L-ascorbic acid. You want to use vitamin C because vitamin C is an antioxidant, right? Especially with the Banish Vitamin CE Ferulic Acid Serum. It acts as a barrier between the sunscreen. So the sunscreen, depending on the SPF you use, it only can protect like 95 to 98% of the skin of the sun rays and the damaging effects of the UV light and all that stuff, right? So the sunscreen can only protect so much. So you have another form of protection, which is the vitamin C serum, right? Vitamin C is an antioxidant, so it'll help further protect the skin from the damaging effects of the environment, of the sun, etc. And if you use a vitamin C serum with ferulic acid is so great for protecting the skin barrier because ferulic acid is actually the ingredient found in plant cell walls that actually protects the plant from not degrading and not turning brown and crusty and all that stuff, which is pretty cool. So that ferulic acid is also really protecting your skin too. So I highly recommend, highly recommend putting the vitamin C serum from Banish, using that one, L-ascorbic acid, vitamin C, E, ferulic acid. Okay, if you don't want to use the one from Banish, SkinCeuticals has one. I think other brands have one too, but that gold standard of L-ascorbic acid, E, and ferulic acid is the gold standard. Okay, so you're gonna put that on your face every single morning before you put on your sunscreen. So I put the vitamin C serum on, let it sink into my skin for about like a minute, and then I put on the mineral sunscreen. Always use mineral sunscreen. I don't care. I do not care what the Korean sunscreens, the other ingredients are there. If you have acne scarring, you have to use a mineral sunscreen. A mineral sunscreen, a physical sunscreen, is a physical blocker. The actual particles, the white particles of the sunscreen physically block the damaging sun rays, okay? When using a chemical sunscreen, it's absorbing into the skin. I just don't like it. I just don't think it should even hit the skin, especially if you're prone to scarring, pigmentation issues. So a mineral sunscreen, vitamin C serum, and then your skin, okay? And then at night, using a moisturizer, something that moisturizes. If you want to use retinols, you can. Just make sure your skin is well protected and well nourished. And then also, I do believe that diet does affect my skin and how it heals and how it looks. I drink a green juice, a freshly pressed green juice every single day. And the days whenever I'm not on vacation or whenever I don't have access to my green juice, I definitely notice my skin gets more dull. It just doesn't look as nice. I just feel like it doesn't glow as well. So if you ever notice any kind of dietary changes, any other habits that have helped your skin, definitely do them. And who should not treat acne scars right now? People, if you have a lot of active acne, it's just not worth the risk of spreading that bacteria to other places of your face, right? But I understand what it feels like to feel like your skin is never going to clear up from the acne and you want to start the acne scarring process now. I totally get you. I know how you feel. So this is why for me, I created the Banisher stamping device versus a roller device, because let's say you do have one or two active breakouts, right? It's that time of month, right? You still want to create collagen. You still want to be consistent with the acne scar healing method. So you're just going to stamp around, right, the active acne. And this is why I love the Banisher stamping device, because I created it so specifically it was large enough to go all over the skin, but small enough to be able to target, any kind of areas and to target around the active acne. Okay, and the last part, the most important thing you need to do in order to not create further scarring from treating your acne scars is mindset. And I know this is like wooby dooby, but knowing that acne scars are very, very, very difficult to treat, it's going to take time and you need to be patient. And you also need to be realistic in the results that you're going to expect. And I think that's really important because when people do these treatments and they see 15, 20, 30% improvement, but they don't see 100% improvement, they get upset and they further do more things, right? And more intense things, and it actually creates more scarring and worse outcomes. So being able to understand that we're aiming for progress over perfection, and we also have to be patient through the process. We also have to be consistent through the process, okay? And also understanding that, no matter what you do to your skin, it may not look like your favorite TikTok influencers, right? You might not have that like last Korean snail serum silky skin, right? But also understanding that the people with that kind of skin don't even look like themselves either, because there's, so much effects on social media that like change the way people look, right? Understanding that if you have acne scarring, that you will probably never have a certain level of completely smooth glass skin, right? There has to be an acceptance to that. And for me, it took a long time to understand that even though I do make and manufacture and create products for people with acne scars, I will still always be left with permanent acne scars on my face. That's just the reality of it. And for a while, I felt very much like a failure because I felt like, oh, well, if I can't treat my acne scars 100%, how will people believe that my product works, blah, 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 blah. But I think it's actually the opposite of it, in that people can see I have acne scars. People can see that I've gone through the process, and people will trust somebody who has acne scars and understands what it's like to have acne scars versus someone who was completely born with flawless skin and has had perfect skin their whole life and, doesn't need to do anything and still have like glassy skin, right? And I think it's really important for you not to compare yourself to people with those stories, right? Why is this happening to me? What am I not doing enough of? Because in reality, you're doing the best you possibly can. And you also have to be realistic given the cards that you were dealt with, basically, right? It's just kind of like people saying, like, why can't I look like a Victoria's Secret model? I mean, no matter how much you exercise and diet, like 99.9% of us will never look like a Victoria's Secret model. And that is because we were just not given the genetic lottery. We look like a Victoria's Secret model, right? Along with their trainers and their diets and surgeries and all that stuff. Like they have all that going on, plus that genetic lottery. So it's the same thing with your skin. Don't think like, why don't I look like that person on TikTok, on social media? Well, a lot of times they just won the genetic lottery for having perfect glass skin without having to do anything for it, And don't think it's your fault for not having that, okay? Because it took me so long for me to overcome that kind of thinking. And I kept thinking that there was something wrong with me. And this is why for me and Banish, and the mission of Banish has always been to make people feel confident in their skin, which is why we do all of these like, Beyonce like activities and events and stuff, because for me, it's all about feeling confident in your skin without feeling like it has to be absolutely perfect, right? We're all dealt a different pack of cards in life, and we just got to make the best of it. All right. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope this helped. And tell me if there's anything that you did for your acne scars that actually made your acne scars worse. Bye.